Hi everyone, the lesson is Android Activities Part 9, Parcelables and Bundles. We'll be using these tools and references for this lecture. You have to make sure that you look at this previous lecture before you start this lesson. You can find the link in the description for it. In this session, we'll be learning about parcelables and bundles, basically sending data between activities, the use of intent class, bundle class, and parcelable interface, and sending data between processes. As usual, it's going to be a practical discussion. So if you look at the developer docs, you will see a section called under activities, parcelables and bundles. And basically it says parcelable and bundle. So parcelable is a interface. So if you look at that, and bundle is a class, and then it talks about intent as well. So the parcelable interface and the bundle class, right? So these objects are intended to be used across process boundaries. Let's see what it is in a little while. So we'll start with sending data between activities. So there are two things. One is sending data between activities. The other one is sending data between processes. So if it's within one process and if you have multiple activities, so it's like sending data between activities on your own app. The other thing is sending data between processes or across apps, right? So let's see briefly. And before that, the parcelable is an interface in the API, bundle is a class, and intent is a class. So far we have used intent in our previous examples. Also we have very briefly used bundle, especially when you restore activity, right? So we have done it in the past previous lessons. So when it comes to sending data between activities, we have done that already. So we use intents. So for example, you create an intent, then you will tell what is your second activity. Then into the intent, you will call the put extra method and you give a key and a value and you start the activity. Then from the second activity, it can receive the data. So if we look at one of our previous examples, which we used this concept, so you remember this app previous lesson. In this we are typing a message. Let's say hi John, and we are sending it to the second activity. So this is passing data from one activity to another activity. So that message is displayed here. So in this previous example, we got the two layouts and we got the two Java files, and when we click on the send button, what we are doing is we call this method, and see, we do the same thing here, right? Exactly like what is discussed here about creating an intent and putting the data and starting the activity. So we do it, see, creating the intent and put in the second activity class file, and to the intent we put the data and we start the activity. So that's what exactly is discussed here. So once you do it, the second activity can in is on create can call get intent and get the intent, and from the intent can get that data, retrieve that data, the second activity. So we have done this on a previous lesson. Awesome. So what happens here now? What is happening here is when you do this, the operating system parcels. That's where this concept of parcelable comes, right? So the operating system parcels the underlying bundle of the intent, right? So once you add the data, when you add the data to the intent, in the intent underlying there's a bundle. So because bundle is where the data is kept. So the operating system parcels the underlying bundle of the intent. So the intent, when you put data, it has an underlying bundle where the data is kept. So that is where these concepts comes together. So intent, the bundle is underline, the bundle underline the intent, and the parcelable interface. So that's how these three gets together, and then that's how you send data between activities. Okay, so it says we recommend that you use the bundle class to set primitive types, etc. Right? In some cases, you may need a mechanism to send. Okay, sometimes you may need a mechanism to send composite or complex objects across activities. In such case, the custom class should implement parcelable interface. So that is where this parcelable interface comes into the picture. That is when you whenever you want to send composite or complex objects across activities, in then the custom class should implement this parcelable interface and provide these appropriate methods of the interface. So that's another important thing. Awesome. So then, when it comes to uh, that's great, and sending data between processors. So then, when it comes to sending data between processors, similar to between activities. However, when sending data between processors, we recommend that you do not use custom parcelables. So it's not recommended to use custom parcelables, but custom parcelables are recommended when you send data between activities whenever the data is complex or composite. That's where you have to use parcelable interface, right? Okay. Then there's valuable advice here. It says when sending data via intent, you should be careful to limit the data size to a few kilobytes. Sending too much data can cause the system to throw an transaction too large. So you have to make sure when you set data to an intent that it has to be a small amount of data. That's a very important message. Okay, great. So with that, you got some idea about sending data between activities and processors. Awesome, right? Okay. So, so we did a practical demonstration for this lesson, and as a conclusion, you learn about parcelable interface and bundles, then sending data between these activities, how to use the intent class, and then that it you have to keep data very low amount of data you have to send. Then that the intent is using its underlying bundle and the parcelable interface to define complex objects, etc. Right? Okay, and then how the mechanism works. Awesome. And briefly touched about sending data between processors, and there it's not recommending to use the parcelable interface. And the important advice is when you are sending data between processors, it's not recommended to use the custom parcelables. You can find the link to download source code in the description section. We use these references for this lesson, and make sure to look at the next video lessons in this series for you to know about the next stuff such as fragments and dealing with advanced fragmented base layouts. So we are very excited to see you in our next lesson. See you in our next lesson.